Hello folks, we're only days away from the release of Halloween Ends, which will be the latest of the Halloween horror movie franchise. Um, so I figured it'd be a good time as any to go ahead and get caught up with the latest movie of the series, which was Halloween Kills, which came out last October, a year ago, and uh, basically get caught up with what happened in that movie. Um, and then, what I liked about the movie. The movie had mixed reviews. I liked it. Some folks didn't, but I'm going to touch on that. We're going to talk a little bit about where Halloween Ends might be going. We're not sure yet because obviously it hasn't come out yet. And I'm going to also touch on the different story timelines of the series and also give my views on the rankings of the movies and what's hurt in the series, in my opinion, or what has worked, what's hurt the series, that kind of thing. But anyways, let's dig in. Basically, Halloween Kills opens up. Actually, it opens up partway through the 2018 movie with Cameron, Allison's boyfriend, who she kind of parted ways with in that movie. He finds Officer Hawkins, or Deputy Hawkins, who'd been left dead after being attacked by Dr. Sartain, Michael's doctor, in the 2018 movie. Uh, Hawkins is still alive, and we get this flashback, which was amazingly well done, to 1978, Halloween night 1978. And we see young Hawkins and other officers in pursuit of Michael on foot, and this is of course after the events of the first movie. So now, after attacking Laurie, all the officers, well, the whole police and sheriff's department's basically on alert, looking for Michael. Hawkins is basically actually chasing him, and Michael disappears. We get introduced to a boy named Lonnie, who we actually saw in the first movie. He was the boy in the red jacket who Dr. Loomis scared off the porch of the Myers house, telling him, hey Lonnie, get your ass away from there. And the kids that he and the kids that he was with, they take off running. Lonnie sees Michael a couple times, and then Hawkins and his partner, they realize that they're in front of the Myers house. They go inside to investigate to see if Michael has returned home. Michael attacks Hawkins' partner, who gets killed, and then the police and Dr. Loomis swarm in outside and surround Michael, taking him back into custody. We then, after the opening credits, return back to 2018 for Halloween night, and we are introduced to an adult Tommy Doyle from the first movie, who gives us a ghost story about the events of 1978, and then we were introduced to Lonnie, who's now an adult, of course, Nurse Marion, who was with Dr. Loomis the night Michael escaped, and Lindsay Wallace, who was the young girl who Annie was babysitting across the street from the Myers, or from where Laurie was at, when, and of course where Laurie ran into Michael at. Anyways, we then get shown Laurie, Kieran, and Allison in the back of the truck that they were in at the end of 2018. They're on their way to the hospital. They pass fire trucks going to the fire at Laurie's property, where the house is fully engulfed in flames. Laurie, of course, is screaming, no, 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 let him burn, let him burn. Firefighters arrive. They go inside the house looking for any victims of the fire. Of course, they don't realize at that point who is in the basement, or what is in the basement, however you want to refer to them. And one of the firefighters falls through the floor, basically freeing Michael. Michael then kills all the firefighters, and then returns to his house, killing people along the way. Back at the hospital, one of the escaped patients from the 2018 movie, he gets mistaken for Michael and is attacked by a lynch mob, basically, because basically everyone realizes after the attack on the firefighters that Michael is on the loose again, and basically everyone's in a panic, basically. So, meanwhile, at the Myers house, Michael returns home, kills the gay couple living in the house, and then Allison, Cameron, and Lonnie, they show up to try to find Michael. Lonnie and Cameron are killed. Allison gets injured. Karen arrives, basically attacking Michael, taking his mask off, and then luring him a chase through the backyards into an empty, what appears to be an empty street, with leaving his mask for him. Michael goes to pick up his mask and is surrounded by a lynch mob. They think they kill him. He comes back awake, kills the mob, everyone in the mob, apparently, and returns to his home, kills Karen, and that's the end of the movie. I liked the movie. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Not my favorite of the sequels, but I thought it held out. It's definitely a lot more violent than the other movies in the series, because of the number of deaths and everything. But basically, if you go looking back from the beginning, Deputy Hawkins' survival, because he is left for dead at the beginning. I've heard some people complaining about that. About how he survived, which, if you look at where he was at, because basically, if you remember, Dr. Sartain runs him over with his cruiser. But if you look closely, as the cruiser is about to run over him, the cruiser's aiming for his legs, which are up on the grass, not on the pavement. So it's entirely possible that, leg wounds, getting run over, he could survive that. The neck wound where he got stabbed, provided it wasn't anything fatal or anything, he could easily have survived that too. So it's quite possible he could have survived. So then in the flashbacks to 1978, which was amazingly well done. I mean, they completely rebuilt they couldn't reuse the house from the first two movies because it had been moved to a new property, and the current owner wasn't allowing them to use it for filming. But the producers basically rebuilt the house from scratch, and I mean, they did an amazing job recreating the look not only in 1978, but they also showed it in 2018, where it's been refurbished by the couple that are living there. And anyways, after Hawkins' partner gets killed, Dr. Loomis comes in, asking Officer Hawkins, what happened in here? Did Michael kill? Did Michael kill again? And what really blew me away was seeing him walk in, because at the time, I'm watching this in the theater, I'm thinking either this is the best CGI that I've ever seen, or this was lost footage, because literally, at the time, unless you compare the movies side by side, it literally looks very, very close to the look and feel of the 2000, or not 2000, but the 1978 and 1981 movies. And I honestly thought, maybe this is lost footage that, Carpenter's been sitting on for all these decades since the movie. It turns out what it was is they had a guy working behind the camera who looked remarkably like Donald Pleasence, so they added some makeup to complete the look, and they had someone else doing the voiceover, but yeah, he really did spot on for, bringing back Dr. Loomis. So, I thought that was amazing. But someone, I can't remember who it was, but I heard someone say that they had Dr. Loomis's character being over the top with, Officer Hawkins, what happened here? Tell me, did Michael kill? Did Michael kill again? And they said he was over the top and everything with that. But, I really don't think he was that out of alignment with, the early, Dr. Loomis. I mean,
I shot him 6 times. What? I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart.
Can't have gotten very far. Come on.
I shot him 6 times. Yeah. This man, he's not human.
You look at Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, where Loomis is trying to convince the police that Michael's coming back to Haddonfield, and he's shouting, I saw a gas station in flames, bodies, and all this and that. And then, in Halloween 5, when he was doing the whole, let's get the little girl, and he's using Laurie's daughter as basically bait to lure Michael back into a trap to catch him and kill him. Basically, I mean, you get in later movies, yes, Dr. Loomis was over the top there, but in this one, I mean, he was not all that over the top in this one. And so I didn't really see anything wrong with the performance of Dr. Loomis in this one. I've heard some people say they got fed up with the whole Evil Dies Tonight thing that was being chanted by the mob. It's a mob scene. I mean, they basically, one person says something and it catches on with everyone else in the mob, and then they basically went on to, they basically, it became their chant or mantra or whatever. It did kind of get annoying a couple times, but I can't really complain too much about that. Another thing too with that really stuck out with me with the recreation of the Halloween 1978 that I forgot to point out too. There were 2 officers that you see, or 2 deputies that you see in surrounding Michael, who, it might be just me, but to me it looks like they were made up to look like 2 of the deputies played in the original Halloween 2. One was Hunter von Leer's character, and there's another patrolman who is seen a couple times throughout the movie. But it looked like both of them, they were trying to recreate those characters as well when they recreated the 1978 scenes. But anyways, one complaint I heard too was people, some group or something was trying to have the scene where the firefighters get killed off. They tried having that removed from the movie, which honestly, I don't see how you could have, basically, I mean, it basically shows how Michael escaped from the house, because they had him trapped at the end of the 2018 movie. It was like, okay, how on earth did they, were they going to have him bring him back when he's trapped, obviously, in this house that's fully engulfed in flames, when they actually showed it, I thought, very intelligently, bringing him back with, having him hide. Basically, he hid in the gun locker that Laurie had down in the basement. And then when the firefighters broke in and accidentally broke through the floor, that's when he came out and just started killing the firefighters, came out of the house and basically went nuts on the firefighters. Some people have complained about how basically they were attacking Michael one at a time in terms of the firefighters. And again, this happens later on in the mob scene towards the end where Michael's surrounded by the lynch mob. But, you know, I think that was basically an editing issue because, yeah, you see them going one at a time, but the whole scene, I mean, it's kind of like, I liken it to the crash scenes that we saw in the TV show Chips, where, you know, you would, in reality, things are happening so fast that you don't see all the individual cars piling up and everything, but, you know, in the show, you know, they had, you know, one car would come flying into a bunch of spun out cars and go airborne, flip over, another car would come in, flip over, or go airborne, that kind of thing. And in reality, of course, you don't see that because everything's happening so fast. I think that's basically what was happening here in this movie, was they showed, you know, one person attacking Michael, then another, and as they attack, they're getting killed off. Well, I think that what it was they were basically just, it was like in Chips, where basically they were basically slowing it down so you can see each individual kill or attack or whatever. The other thing that I've heard people complain about was that, and this was something that briefly came up on Twitter, I think it was, and that was the gay couple that got killed off in, who were living in the Myers house, and they got killed off by Michael when Michael came home. And people, some group or something on, I think it was on Twitter, started in saying that it made Michael homophobic, basically. Which, pardon my French, but that's bullshit. They're living in Michael's house. Michael comes home. He is not going to just walk in and say, hey, I love what you've done with the place. Hey, I love the new curtains. Hey, you got my sister's bloodstains out of the floor. No, you're in Michael Myers' house. Michael comes home. He's going to kill anyone who's in his way or in this house. It doesn't matter if they're gay, straight, or what. So there's nothing homophobic about Michael killing off a gay couple living in his house. So, you know, that was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard of when it comes to this movie. Most likely it was someone just looking for attention for themselves or trying to stir up trouble. Also, there is the another issue that came up that I've heard people complaining about is how Michael gets killed by the lynch mob at the end, and then he suddenly comes back to life and becomes superhuman and takes out everyone in the lynch mob. Well, did Michael really just suddenly become superhuman? Because, you know, the way I see it, you know, Michael has had pretty strong strengths and stuff all throughout all the movies. I mean, let's just look back at the original for a moment. And, you know, you see in the first movie, when Michael's chasing Laurie, he busts through the door through a wooden door with his bare hand. He gets stabbed in the neck with a knitting needle. He gets stabbed in the eye with the coat hanger. He gets stabbed somewhere in the abdomen with a knife. Gets shot 6 times. Falls backwards off the balcony, landing on his back on the ground. And he still gets up and walks away. And yet people say that he just suddenly became superhuman at the end of this movie. And it's like, no, he's had abnormal strengths and abilities to recover from his injuries for a while now. One thing that was kind of confusing, I thought, after that scene was when Karen and Allison, or Karen's with Allison on the steps of Myers' house. You know, paramedics are taking care of Allison. Karen looks up in the window that had been Judith's bedroom window, the one that Michael looks up at the beginning of the first movie, and she sees a little boy in a clown costume. And here's where I think some of the supernatural elements might be coming into play for where this they're taking this series and this trilogy of the movies. And that is, I'm thinking Michael might have some kind of mental telepathy power where he's basically projecting what he wants people to see onto those around him. For example, Hawkins mentions in the hospital that he stopped Loomis from shooting Michael because basically one of the cops hit Michael and knocks him to the ground. Loomis then aims his gun at Michael, getting ready to kill him. And Hawkins said that at that point he saw someone's. He didn't see a monster. He just saw someone's little boy in the mask, and he stopped Loomis from killing him. And likewise, I think in this scene and towards the end, where Karen sees, the boy in the clown get up in the upstairs window, I think what happened there was Karen was seeing this image that Michael was projecting of a little boy in the upstairs window, which got her curious. She goes upstairs, and she realizes, she's in this room where where everything had started, and as a result, Michael is then able to sneak up behind her and kill her. So I think that's what it is some kind of mental telepathy thing where Michael's able to, which allows Michael to, sneak around so easily to disguise his movements or whatnot as he's going around and sneaking up on people. The big thing that I've heard, though, and this is actually in the alternate ending. It's not in the theatrical cut of the movie that I saw in theaters. One thing, though, I heard of was that people were complaining was at the end, Michael, or after Michael kills Karen and Laurie is in the hospital, she has this look of a premonition on her face, like she knows something's wrong. In the uncut or the extended cut version, Laurie calls Karen's phone from the hospital room, and Michael apparently answers it because you hear breathing, and then Laurie's telling Michael, "I'm coming for you, Michael," and she drops the phone and grabs the knife and goes walking out of her hospital room. Anyways, a lot of people were like, well, how does Michael know, after being locked up since 1978, how does Michael know how to use a smartphone? Well, if you think about it, Michael has always been very observant about his surroundings. that in the 1978 Halloween, it was, one of the issues that was brought up was Haddonfield being 150 miles away. He can't drive a car. And, Dr. Loomis says he's doing very well last night. And then maybe someone around here gave him lessons.
Sam Haddonfield is 150 miles away from here. Now, for God's sakes, he can't drive a car.
He was doing very well last night. Maybe someone around here gave him lessons.
If you look back at, and I haven't actually read the novelization of the first movie, but from what I've heard in the novelization of the first movie, Michael, basically, not long after he's taken into custody after killing Judith, he was being transported in that station wagon or in vehicle to and from court dates and stuff when they were doing the hearing for where he's going to be held at, and when he's going to be tried as an adult and all that. Well, when he was being transported, he basically was observing how to drive by watching what the driver did to make the vehicle speed up, slow down, steer, that kind of thing. So you think about it, in the 2018 movie, Dr. Sartain says that Michael has been examined by more than 50 psychologists. Now, it doesn't say when the last one was or anything, but if it was in recent years, it stands to reason that the doctor could have had that was examining Michael could have had a smartphone on them, and not seeing Michael getting any response or anything or talking to anyone. It's quite possible. They could have had an incoming call when examining Michael, and they picked up the phone, swiped the green button to pick up the call, and started talking. Well, it's not really that hard to figure out how to answer a smartphone. Michael could have seen that easily. He might not have known how to actually use the phone, but he could have seen how someone answered it, basically. And then basically went on to just look at the phone while breathing, and that's what Laurie heard then in the hospital. So initially, when I saw the ending, I was like, oh, there's no way he's going to be using a smartphone. But it was like after that, I got to thinking about it. The more I thought about it, it's like, okay, that would make sense if he was observing, one of his examiners using a smartphone. He would have easily picked it up and been made fully aware of how to answer it, but maybe not necessarily use it completely, but at least be able to answer it, or pick up the line and then look at it, and of course it picks up his breathing. So, the movie, some folks have had issues with it, but for the most part, I liked Halloween Kills. It's not the strongest sequel of the series, in my opinion, but it was entertaining. There's a creepy scene where Allison and Cameron go into the house after Lonnie's dad, or after Lonnie goes in, and they find the gay couple. Michael had posed the two of them in their picture, and in the movie, Michael also has a record playing on the record player with I believe it was Anne Murray. Could I have this dance for the rest of my life? In which it's a beautiful song, but it's when they play it in this scene, it was just kind of creepy hearing it. Kind of like when you hear Johnny Mathis with "Do You Hear What I Hear" in the movie Gremlins. Beautiful song, but they use it in a really creepy kind of way for the audience. So anyways, I liked it. I know that I was stunned when they killed Karen at the end, although I kind of jokingly say that the reason Michael killed Karen was because she was wearing a Christmas sweater in the both movies that she's in. So, yeah, maybe that was why Michael killed her, because she was bringing Christmas into Halloween, and everyone's complaining about these days about how Christmas is coming, or people are putting Christmas stuff out earlier and earlier, but anyways, I like Halloween Kills. Not sure exactly where Halloween Ends is going to end up going. I've seen the trailer, and it's like an 80-second trailer or teaser trailer, and then I've seen the like 2-minute full trailer. Looks like the movie's going to be really creepy. I'm not sure like I said, I'm not sure exactly what angle they're going for, how they're going to end up. But I mean, I've had my seat reserved for over a week now, back to the end of September. So here we are, about a week away. So I'm ready to go watch it in the theaters. Not exactly but I'm thinking it's going to be pretty good. So we'll see what happens. So one of the things that's I think has hurt the Halloween series over the years, with all the sequels, is you had the original 1978 movie where John Carpenter basically intended to be a standalone movie, hadn't intended for a sequel, because originally he was wanting to do an anthology series, basically surrounding the Halloween holiday. So, but the only problem with that was the studios, which was Universal at the time. They said that if you want to do the anthology series, you have to do a sequel to Michael Myers' story first. So, basically, I mean, being pushed into doing a sequel to a movie that he didn't intend to have a sequel for, I think that's one of the things that's the first thing that hurt the movie, or the series. I think the second thing was that with all these sequels, you had different people coming in each time, and it was like everyone had their own agenda for what they wanted to do with the story. Basically, almost like I think someone said it best when I heard someone say that basically the sequels are basically trying to outdo the previous movies. So it's like, basically trying to overdo it with basically trying to think of the word. Basically trying to compete, I guess you could say, with the previous ones, and it's ended up hurting the movies, I think. It's like, and then not only that, but then you have all these folks who come in and they basically reset the storyline, which is how we have so many different storylines in the movie series now, for just one movie series. And basically, it's like, I think it was my friend Zach Cherry over on his channel said that basically the Halloween series has basically become a choose your own adventure of horror movies. I've heard people say there's 4 different storylines for the movies. I've actually counted about 6. Because originally you had the original 1978 movie, which was a standalone movie. Then you have the anthology timeline, which is basically Halloween 1, 2, and then 3, Season of the Witch. Then they did a reset in 1988 and started a new timeline with Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, and then Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. That basically fell flat by the time you got to 5 and 6. And that was the original brother-sister storyline. Then they reset everything back to 2 and for the second brother-sister timeline. And that's when we got Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween H2O, and then you could include it in, although in my opinion H2O, they killed Michael at the end. That was when we then brought Halloween Resurrection, which was supposed to be a direct sequel to H2O, which, as you know, I thought the whole way of bringing Michael back in that one was dumb. Then you had the Rob Zombie storylines, which were remakes and complete garbage. And then you have this latest series of Halloween movies, this latest trilogy, which does a complete reset all the way back to the original. So you have the original 1978 movie, and then you have 2018, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. Like I said, I'm not sure where exactly this one's going to be going because we haven't had Halloween Ends yet. So anyways, as promised, let's go through my rankings of the movies and see how I rank these movies. There's been 12 Halloween movies released so far. The last two, numbers 11 and 12, for me they're pretty much tied, but if I had to rank them, number 12 I would put in as Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. The original Rob Zombie Halloween, it was just pure, you know, it was a mess, and his sequel, I mean, it was interesting seeing Michael stalking Laurie in the hospital, but it was just pure garbage. I mean, it was basically they turned him into a monster, like, or movie kind of thing, and it's like, it's just, I don't know, it's been a while. I've only watched it once, and that was enough. It's just, they basically just trashed the movie, or the whole idea of the whole storyline and everything, and it was just, yeah, that's all I'm gonna leave it at there. So obviously, if Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is at number 12, and it was tied with number 11, number 11 is going to be Rob Zombie's Halloween. This one I actually went to the theater thinking that, I don't know why I thought it was going to be better than what it was, but the movie, when they made Michael's mom a stripper, I basically almost walked out of the theater. It was like, okay, that's going too far ridiculousness. I mean, they completely removed all mystery as to why Michael is going on a killing spree. They completely made it look obvious why he was snapping. I mean, his mother's boyfriend was abusing him, sister was abusing him. He's getting bullied at school. He's killing small animals. Yeah, that's pretty much removing all mystery as to why he's going to suddenly snap. And then he kills one of his schoolmates at school, one of the kids that was bullying him. And then he kills not only his sister, but his sister's boyfriend and his mom's boyfriend. Um, the he had a little baby sister, and his after he was locked up and he attacks a nurse in the hospital. I'm not sure if he actually killed the nurse in the hospital or not, but I mean, it's just, they just totally trashed the original John Carpenter story, and it is garbage. I've only seen, that's one I've also only seen once. That's more than enough for me. So coming in at number 10 is Halloween Resurrection. This was the second Halloween movie that I had seen in the theaters, and like I said, 2 years prior to the movie coming out, I kind of predicted how they were going to bring Michael back in this one by, my mom asked me, well, they chopped his head off at the end, well, how are they going to bring him back? And I made the comment, well, they left his body alone for a while, he probably came to, switched bodies with someone, and Laurie killed the wrong person, which ended up being exactly what happened. So when you can make that kind of a prediction as to how they're bringing someone back, or bring a character back like that, yeah, it's kind of bad when you can foresee that happening. The movie itself, I mean, the whole webcam view of everything was pretty bad. All the acting in the movie was just pretty much bad. It's just, and then they left it open in there at the end with when they brought in Michael Myers' body that had apparently been set on fire. The coroner, she goes to examine him, and he opens his eyes, and there's a scream, and that's the end of the movie. And I was like, okay, where the heck were you going with that? But yeah, that movie, they basically just, this is another one of the bad sequels where they should have left it alone and let Michael die in H2O. So coming in at number 9 is Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. This one, like I said, this is after they introduced the cult thing with Halloween, with it. The series really started to go downhill, and this one was really bad. I guess there's like a different like producer's cut or something different from what I've seen, but the movie, I mean, it's just the whole idea that there's a cult causing or driving Michael to kill people, and why Michael would be targeted instead of some other random family or something. It just doesn't make sense for me. And then you had and I think, and then it also hurt too that Donald Pleasence passed away while making the movie, so I'm not sure how much that changed everything, but yeah, it's just the whole plot, it just kind of fell apart, in my opinion. So the movie had already started going downhill, I think, with Halloween 5, or the storyline started going downhill with Halloween 5, but yeah, Halloween 6, it was just it was bad. So as you can probably figure out where this how my ranking is going, if number 9 was Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. Halloween, or the number 8 movie in the series for me was Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Basically, Michael at the end of Halloween 4, he gets shot up by the deputy state police or whoever's there, and everyone, and he goes down the mine shaft, and that's the end of the movie. Michael's dead. Well, then this one, they show them tossing a dynamite down the mine shaft, and Michael is shown crawling out this like escape cave or escape tunnel or whatever to fall into the river. And basically at that point, it was almost like I literally felt almost like Annie Wilkes in Misery when she's like, "They just cheated us. This isn't fair. He didn't get out of the cave or out of the mine shaft." And so, but yeah, bringing him back then. There was a lot of storylines and stuff that I think too. This is one where I heard that there's a lot of different people having their own agendas for where they want this storyline to go, because it's basically supposed to originally have Jamie, Michael's evil transferring to Jamie when she is holding his hand at the end of Halloween 4. And she was supposed to be the killer. Another story idea was Michael came back and both of them were supposed to be the killers. Then you had this mysterious man in black that came back, or that was introduced and not really explained at all in this movie. And then you had the 2 cops who, as soon as they show up, they're playing goofy comedic music with them, and it's like, okay, that making the whole series into more of a comedy at that point for that in those scenes anyway. It's like, okay, grand comedy does sometimes fall into place in a horror movie, but the Halloween 5 with the way they were doing it, even with the comedic music, it was like, okay, that's just going a little overboard, rather than just letting just pushing the comedy into everyone's face and everything kind of thing. But yeah, I guess even Donald Pleasance wasn't happy with where this one went. He even told, from what I heard, he told the press that this is going to be his last movie, that Dr. Loomis is going to get killed off, but then they ended up bringing him back in 6. And even at the end, when he tranquilizes Michael on the chain net, he beats Michael off the board, yelling, "Die, Michael, die! Die, Michael, die!" And then he collapses on Michael, and that's all we see of Loomis in the whole movie, so they kind of left it open as to whether he had a heart attack or what, but yeah, it was, Halloween 5 was when it really started to go downhill, I think. So number 7 on my list, of course, is the 1988 movie, Halloween: The Return of Michael Myers. I really wanted to like this movie. I think of the 6 sequels that I don't have in my collection, because so far none of these movies I have in my collection that I've listed. But the ones I don't have in my collection, Halloween 4 is probably the one that I would say is the most watchable. They brought Michael back. I thought they did a acceptable excuse for bringing him back, for saying that he was been in a coma ever since the fire explosion at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. We of course get Donald Pleasance coming back as Dr. Loomis, and then it basically stuck with the same storyline, but the whole thing was has so many like little subplots like Smith's Grove. You look at the ambulance and they call Smith's, and on the ambulance it said Smith Grove, not Smith's Grove. Which I'm pretty sure they would not have a misspelling on an ambulance, but and it did have some genuine creepy scenes to it. There's a scene where Dr. Loomis and Dr. Hoffman drive up to the wrecked ambulance scene, and Dr. Loomis just walks right into the knee-deep water, goes around to the back of the ambulance, which is on its top, and you see inside him staring inside, and the inside of the ambulance is basically a bloodbath. And that was really an eerie scene when he looks inside and sees that. And then there's also the scene at the gas station, which he shows up at the gas station after Michael's killed, when he's stumbling about upon body after body, and of course all the phones are destroyed or cut or whatever. And then he sees Michael standing in the kitchen staring at him, and he tries talking to Michael. He's like, "Why now? Please don't go back to Haddonfield. Leave the people there in peace." And that was just a creepy scene there too. But it's just everything that happened with Halloween 4, which I haven't really heard anyone, I think I have heard a few people say, and that is, it just didn't feel like Haddonfield like in the first movies. And this is one of the problems I had with Halloween 5 and 6, and of course H2O didn't even have Haddonfield in it, but and then Resurrection had Haddonfield in it, but suddenly Haddonfield had a university, which I didn't even realize from the first couple of movies that Haddonfield was that big of a town that they would have their own university. But it's just the atmosphere, it just didn't feel like the small town atmosphere that the original Haddonfield had. So number 6 on my list is Halloween Kills. Like I said, I liked it. Although it's not one of the strongest sequels in the series. At least of the movies that I have in my DVD collection of the Halloween series, but I liked it. It continued the story that makes sense with the 2018 movie, and they did an amazing job with the flashback scene and bringing back the Myers house and everything, and it continued like the 2018 movie. Haddonfield felt like Haddonfield. It felt like it had that small town atmosphere. And I just totally enjoyed it. It's actually kind of the only reason it didn't get higher up on my list with the next one on the list is just because of the nostalgia factor. Although, like I said, they did an amazing job with the flashback. But I liked it, so I've put it on number 6. It might change later, I'm not sure, but the more I've watched it, there's small details that I've seen. One detail I've noticed too in the flashback scene, when Hawkins and his partner meet Lonnie across the street from the Myers house, when they get up to look at the Myers house, if you look in the background, there's Michael's car that he had stolen in the first movie. So, even though that had been further on down the street at down by Tommy Doyle's house and Lindsay Wallace's house, it's quite possible sometime between the end of the first movie and where we see this here, Michael has moved it to kind of throw off the authorities from finding him, maybe, or something. I don't know, but they did an amazing job with the flashback and bringing back the small town feel of Haddonfield, and I liked it. So number 5 on my list is the 1982, in my opinion, excellent movie, very underrated horror movie, Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. This is the one where it threw a lot of folks off because it had the non-Michael storyline, and I admit it threw me off too when I first saw it, because it's like, okay, you see Halloween 3, you've already had Halloween 2, Halloween 2 involved Michael Myers, so Halloween 3 is obviously a sequel to the first two. But I think what it was they could have marketed it a little bit better, that this is a new Halloween storyline, even though the trailers make it obvious that there's no Michael in it. But this is back to before the internet and everything, and I just don't think they marketed it the way they should have to properly let folks know that this is a new storyline that we're starting up here, or basically anthology storyline that we're starting up here. So but the movie, it's a really creepy atmosphere, I think. Santa Mira, as I said in my last Halloween series review, the little town of Santa Mira is a lot like the little town of Sycamore, Ohio, that my dad grew up in. And, it was one of those little tiny towns where basically if you're from out of town, you drive in there and you do feel like you're in a fishbowl with people watching you. And not only that, actually last time I was up there I didn't see it, but there used to be this grain elevator in the middle of town that you could see for miles all around town, the surrounding county. So basically, as you're approaching the town, you could see this grain elevator in the middle of town, and it's almost like it's watching over the whole town. Likewise, here in the movie, they do these scenes around Santa Mira where they show the different scenes from the town, and in the background you can see the tower for the Silver Shamrock factory, almost like it's looming over the town, watching over everyone. And it just adds so much to the creepiness of that small town feeling like you're being watched. And the whole idea that something popular with kids, it's like years ago we had that Tickle Me Elmo thing going on, and it's like what would have happened if all these kids had their Tickle Me Elmos, and there was something in those Tickle Me Elmos that was going to take out the kids and everyone around. And that's where this Halloween idea with Halloween 3 is so creepy. And also we have that, in my opinion, one of the best movie screams ever, and that's when Nurse Agnes basically finds out that Mr. Gimbridge has been killed off in his hospital bed, and Dr. Chalice is woken up by her screams. In my opinion, is one of the best, most realistic screams in a horror movie. And not only that, plus we have the late Dan Herlihy playing Conal Cochran, who in my opinion, he did an amazing job playing the bad guy in this movie. He could be, one moment he's nice and professional, and then you just see him leering at someone with this creepy look on his face, and you can just almost feel the evil that's seething behind him. And then you get this scene which is on right now, where you get the really creepy story of why he's doing what he's doing, which, usually you think, okay, bad guy explaining why he's doing what he's doing is a bad thing, but in this movie it is just so eerie that the plants, we don't choose this thing, the plants do. They're in alignment, it's time again. And that whole story or the whole telling of the sacrifices and everything, it was just so creepy. And then they left it open at the end as to whether or not he Dr. Chalice saves everyone, or if the world's going to be destroyed. And it was a very underrated movie. I know Siskel and Ebert, they hated it. Of course, they hated a lot of horror movies, but I liked it. It's underrated. It's definitely fun to watch, and it's part of my lineup I have for Halloween night. So coming in at number 4 for my favorite, for my ranking of the Halloween movies, is the 1988 movie Halloween H2O. This was the first of the Halloween movies I'd seen on the big screen. Going to see it in theaters when it first came out. It's a little kind of weak. One of the big issues I've had with it was the mask kept changing. Michael's mask was just, one moment it's like a plain Michael mask, and next minute it has like emotion to it, or features on it. And then there's the one scene where it's completely CGI mask. I thought it, going with the original brother-sister storyline, it was a lot neater wrap up to the first two movies than the Halloween 4, 5, and 6 mess that came before that. I think the big issue that I've had with it was, one, where was Michael for 20 years after 1978 to 1998? That's kind of an issue I've had with this movie. Likewise with Halloween 6, when Michael disappeared after Halloween 1989. But this one, it goes back to the original two the storyline from the first two movies. And not only that, we get Laurie Strode brought back, which, Jamie Lee Curtis is awesome in these movies, in my opinion, in terms of being this troubled woman who's been through so much when she was younger, and trying to overcome these traumas that she's been through. And of course, in this storyline, she's dealing with Michael being her brother, But you know, the movie, it was just, you know, the ending, in my opinion, was just so satisfying. Seeing her, you know, finally, you know, she whacks Michael's head off, and just knowing that she's finally free of Michael's reign of terror over her. You know, it just, that gratification just was so awesome. But I think that what lacked, or what kind of hurt it was, you know, bringing, you know, taking Michael out of Haddonfield, you know, going from, because he stole a car basically after killing 3 people, and somehow manages to drive all the way from Illinois to Northern California, where he had, actually his car broke down, he took another vehicle, but somehow he, after stealing the car, he somehow knows how to find where Laurie lives out in Northern California, which, yeah, he did empty out her, or go through her case file. That was under Dr. Lewis's nurse's care. But how he was able to get all the way across country on 1 tank of gas, or if he was able to stop and refill it, because I would have thought, you would think if he stopped to get gas at like a full service station or something, and they would have reported to the police, hey, this car's took off without gas, and you know, they would have put out a notice or something to look for this car. But for what it is at face value, you know, it was a fun movie to watch, and it was, you know, just seeing Laurie and Michael going at it again on the big screen. And like I said, this is my first movie, the Halloween series, that I saw on the big screen. So it's a fun movie, definitely worth watching. So I always have it in my lineup again for all the movies in the series. So number 3 on my list of the Halloween movies is the 2018 Halloween reboot, or requel, or however you want to call it. You know, it was, to me, explaining that Michael got recaptured in 1978, got put back into Smith's Grove, and then, you know, has managed to escape again when being transported to a maximum security facility to basically spend the rest of his life. You know, that just makes so much more sense than he just disappeared and then suddenly reappears so many years later or whatever. You know, the guy that they have playing Michael, Nick Castle, did apparently a couple scenes, but the guy that they had primarily playing Michael did such an amazing job with capturing Michael's movements and everything. It really felt like we were watching the original Michael from the first movie. It also addressed the, you know, this one and Halloween Kills, you know, it doesn't completely, I mean, the storyline, it wipes out the other sequels, but this one, you know, it does such an amazing job with taking details from the other movies and inserting them into this one. And then, you know, you get wonderful, such really neat scenes like this scene at the gas station where Michael gets his mask back, and you see him literally picking it up like he's holding his teddy bear from his childhood. You know, that was just such. I literally, watching that in the theaters, got goosebumps. It was like, that was just really, really creepy. And then you got this scene here, like when Michael shows up, and you know, it's kids are running around, trick or treating and everything. So there's lots of people in the scene, and it's actually two different shots I noticed. But Michael basically just starts going from house to house, killing people, and it's basically like in the 1978 movie when Donald Pleasence tells Sheriff Brackett, you know, death is coming to your town tonight. And Sheriff Brackett says, do you know what Haddonfield is? Families, children, all lined up in rows up and down these streets. You're telling me they're lined up for a slaughterhouse. In the 2018 movie, they were lined up for a slaughterhouse. Michael was going door to door, killing people. And it was just one of those, in my opinion, one of the best scenes of the series. Because, you know, he's going door to door killing people. It's Halloween night, he's blending right in, which is what makes it so creepy that, you know, you could have a killer going door to door and nobody realizes it. And, you know, Laurie, she's become basically a gun fanatic, but she is, you know, fighting, basically trying to basically be prepared because she is so paranoid after what happened with the first movie, which I would be too. You look at all the injuries that Michael sustains in the first movie, and he's still up and running around. I would be paranoid too that he's still coming after me. So, but yeah, I thought it was a great movie to, you know, go back to the original roots of the series, and, you know, bring back so much, and everything too, like with Halloween Kills, you know, this feels like a small town here in the Midwest that, you know, similar to what I grew up in. You know, I went to my hometown of Bucyrus earlier this week, and, you know, you drive through the residential areas, and, you know, it feels just like these houses here where it's house after house after house. People run around, mind their own business, and, you know, Halloween trick-or-treating time comes around, there's going to be kids running around, and has that small town Midwestern feel to it. So Halloween 2018 is a solid number 3 on my list. So, of course, number 2 on my list is the 1981 Halloween 2. Like I said, I've had some issues when you dig into the details of, you know, the whole brother-sister storyline, plus when they say that Smith Grove is in Warren County, which is the same county that Haddonfield is in, which is kind of impossible because in the first movie they said Haddonfield's 150 miles away. But, you know, Halloween 2, you know, yeah, it's a slasher movie. It's, you know, the way movies were tending to go back in the early 80s. But, you know, it was, it still has, you know, that feeling. Of course, a lot of it's filmed in the same area where they filmed the original. But, you know, it has a small town atmosphere with Haddonfield. You know, this movie, I blame this movie for why I get creeped out at hospitals. Ever since this movie, I've always had this nervousness about being in a hospital. I still remember when I had my tonsils out shortly after watching this on it first aired on CBS, the TV version. You know, laying there in bed at night, and you look at the door, and that, you know, got that little window in the door, and just waiting for Michael's face to pop up in the window, looking in, and it was like, don't let him, don't let him show up there, don't let him show up there. But anyways, this another thing too with this movie is, this was a direct, literally direct sequel. It's because this is they basically went back 3 years trying to basically pick up right where the first one left off, which normally sequels occur like a year later, 2 years later, or something like that. This one, they went right back to the original night and picked up right where they left off, or tried to anyway, I should say, because the whole brother-sister storyline, John Carpenter admitted that it was basically a weak thing. He had a six-pack of beer in him when he came up with that idea. And also, there's the issue with, how does Laurie not remember, even though she remembers it in a nightmare. She has it in the hospital. But you would, how do you not remember, one, your brother killing your sister, and granted, that was when she was 2. But then she gets adopted, which she doesn't remember. And 3, how on earth did they seal the records after Michael killed Judah so fast that Michael had a second sister? How did they cover that up where Dr. Loomis did not know about it? That was the big thing. That's the big thing for me, because there's no way they're going to be able to, because Loomis would have had to have had the full family history, and not knowing that Laurie was his sister would have been, I don't know how they could have gotten around that. But, I watch this movie, I take it at face value, and it's an enjoyable movie. I love this movie. I do have it's the 2-disc version that has the theatrical version as well as the TV version on it. Yeah, the TV version's all chopped up and everything, but it's enjoyable to watch because, one, the TV version's what introduced me to the whole series. I saw the TV version before I actually saw the original Halloween. So, there's that nostalgia for the version that introduced me to the series. And 2, there are some scenes that I wish that are in the TV version that were cut out of the theatrical version, which I wish they would have put back in. Like the scene where the power goes out, and they showed everyone holding Laurie down while Dr. Mixter gives her an injection to calm her down, because Laurie at that point was freaking out that Michael was coming after her. You have and that explains too why later on Laurie's kind of in that catatonic state, having a reaction to her medication, and little scenes like that kind of add to the storyline. I think that, and plus it explains too why in the last half of the movie it's like the main lights in the hospital are out and everything's running on backup generators. It's like, they don't turn out the main lights in the hospital. Those lights are always on in the hallways and everything. Because it's a hospital, everything's nice and bright, but it explains, why late in the last half that with the power's out. But I watched the movie now, and it's like, okay, even though that scene's cut out of the theatrical version, I say, well, when they're showing Loomis or something, that's what's happening behind the scenes or something. So, but then of course we got this last battle between Loomis and Laurie, trying to stop Michael by causing the hospital room or ER room to explode, which just such an literally an explosive ending. And No, you know, of course you got, yeah, it's kind of unlikely that Laurie, who hasn't fired a gun, would have shot Michael twice in both eyes, once in both eyes. Um, but I mean, there's a chance that could happen. You never know. Could have been a lucky shot on her part for that. But then, of course, you got the wonderful ending. Then you know they got all the gas cylinders going in the hospital room, and Loomis is telling Laurie to get out, and at which point she does, and then Loomis pulls out his lighter and tells Michael, "It's time, Michael," and flicks the lighter and kaboom. So pretty impressive when they see pyrotechnics like that. Um, Going out with a big bang, basically. It's like John Carpenter said he wanted to kill off Michael Myers, but I think I remember reading Mustafa Akkad had the clause basically saying that there was always going to be a way for Michael to come back with each movie, and it's like, you know, that's kind of ridiculous that you put something like that in, because it's one thing if you bring it person back in a smart way, but when you leave it open for a sequel, or you know, that kind of thing, it's, you know, that I think is another thing that I think hurt the series in the later, especially with the later sequels, is that, you know, they had to leave it open for Michael to come back. So of course, there's only one spot left, and number one on my list is the original 1978 classic Halloween. I don't know what I can say about this movie that hasn't been said already. I mean, the movie, it's such an awesome, it's a simple movie. You don't have all these little side stories or anything that some of the sequels had. You know, you had just enough character development to, you know, feel attachment to the characters that you're seeing on screen. You know, he had Donald Pleasance doing an awesome job, I think, as Dr. Loomis. I've always loved Dr. Loomis's character. I think I said it once before. I refer to Dr. Loomis as the Chief Brody of the Halloween series. Basically, he's to the Halloween series what Roy Scheider was to the Jaws movies, Jaws and Jaws 2, where basically he knew there was no danger with Michael. He tried warning people. People didn't listen, and people ended up getting killed. And he basically made it his crusade to, you know, do what he could to stop Michael and you know, try to keep people safe. And you know, and plus the original Halloween, there isn't a lot of violence. People, that's one thing that I know a lot of people say is, oh, that movie is so violent. There's not a lot of violence. They do a lot of implied violence, and not only that, but there's just so much atmosphere, and the atmosphere of the movie, you know, adds so much to it. Plus the music, John Carpenter's wonderful music score for this. I know I've driven people nuts playing it on my stereo at times. I remember in college, someone got on my case about it, playing it so much, but you know, it's an awesome movie score. It really, you know, helps to add to the atmosphere of the movie, and you know, is just all around one of the best, in my opinion, the best horror movie there is. And you know, it's just, this is one movie where if it's on, I have to watch it. I can't not watch it. So, but so anyways, that's my ranking of the Halloween movies. One thing I do want to do a little plug for a friend of mine, Zach Cherry, over on his channel, told me about these wonderful books, which I got this last winter for with money I got for Christmas. The first is Taking Shape. This is by Dustin McNeil and Travis Mullins. This is basically the story behind each of the Halloween movies up through the 2018 movie. Telling about how the scripts came about and the storyline, filming, everything. I haven't read it yet. I've skimmed through it though. It's a lot of information in here, a lot of good information on the making of the movies. If you're ever wanting to, if you're like me, you like to read about or hear about the making of your favorite movies. Sometimes the making of the movies is just as much as entertaining as the movies themselves. But this, tells a lot about making the movies, how the movies came out, and everything. And also, you might, if you like that, you might also like Taking Shape 2. This is basically the Lost Halloween sequels. As you can probably imagine, with all the Halloween movies, there have been a lot of storylines that have been thought of for how to do the sequels, especially for like when they were trying to figure out how to bring Michael back from being killed off in Halloween 2. But this is explains a lot of different storylines. From what I understand, there's also some elements in the scripts that didn't get used that did end up actually getting used in the sequels. Even though they didn't use the actual scripts, there's like certain elements or details or whatnot that did end up getting used. So, two excellent books for watching the movies, or for if you, like I said, if you enjoyed the behind the scenes of how these movies developed and everything, this is another excellent book to check out. So that's my look at Halloween Kills, and a re-look at the timelines and rankings of the Halloween series so far. Like I said, I don't know where Halloween Ends is going to end up going or taking us. But, we've only got about a week yet to go before we get to see that. At the time of this, I'm taping this or recording this video. But I'm looking forward to seeing it, and hopefully it's as good as I'm expecting. I've only watched the trailers a couple times each, and then I haven't watched it since. I'm basically avoiding all YouTube videos or anything where there's people are trying to spoil the ending. It's like, no, don't spoil it for people. Just let us go to the theater and watch it. And I'm basically just I'm going in on this one, and I have no idea what to expect. I've only, other than what I've seen in the trailers. But I just right now, like I said, I'm not watching the trailers anymore because so many times the trailers, they take things out of context or twist things around, and I wanted to just go into this all fresh, clear mind, and not have to, or not be tainted in my views of what I'm going to be seeing on screen. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this look at Halloween Kills and my re-look or re-evaluation of where the series has gone, my rankings of the movies. If you like this movie, like, comment, subscribe, or if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments, how you would rank the Halloween movies. Do you agree with my rankings? Are there others that you like better than what I've ranked them? Let me know. I have no problems discussing the movies with Pete folks. Just as long as the only thing I hate is when people like, oh, that movie sucks, and they don't have a reason for it, or they give reasons that don't make sense. So, but let me know what you think of the movies. And in the words of Dan O'Hurley, he playing Colin Cochran in Halloween 3.
Happy Halloween.